Everyone, what's
All
happening?
right, so
I feel like I haven't seen y'all in forever.
I
I know,
know.
right?
Y'all
so
been
we're live,
hiding out.
y'all. This is episode 107 of the show. How are y'all doing?
Fantastic.
Good, good. How you
Oh
doing?
well.
We got special guest, Miss Danielle Washington, who we especially got her on for grandpa because she actually been to Cuba. So
and I get mad by the day, but it is
grandpa jumping all the way in it already. We didn't even get
Look here.
the beer rankings and everything. What, Miss Washington, since you're our guest, you want the beer in first? What you got to drink in that mason jar?
So yes, I do have a mason jar, and it does look beer-esque, but sadly, I'm on medication, which won't allow me to drink right now. So I'm drinking ginger, cloves, purified water, and something else in here.
Well, with ginger and cloves, I'm sure it has a kick like it has alcohol in it.
It does. It does have a kick. But if I was drinking a beer right now, my favorite beer is the Carmelite, triple Carmelite.
Heard of that?
I love beer.
Oh, good.
what you got for me, Josh?
Oh, Grandpa. All right, so I brought Grandpa 2 different beers to try today. We got this New Holland Light Point Functional White Ale. Y'all can see that. That is
I'm a little grainy today, but
that's 3.7%.
did you say 3.7, nephew?
That seems very small.
Yes.
That's like drinking water.
Thank you.
Grandpa,
Might as well be a Corona.
here you go.
Might as well.
3.7, so it's made in Holland.
Well, you know,
Oh.
I brought up 2 beers, so I had to. And we got, I hope I'm saying this right, Saugatuck Brewing Company, Maggie's Irish Ale, which is 5.4% alcohol.
Okay, that's better. That's better.
Doing better.
So yeah.
Now, have you guys heard of San Francisco Brewing Company?
Say that again?
Have you guys heard of San Francisco Brewing Company? Y'all need to check out. There's some great, back here, there are hella good breweries. Like I love going to like the breweries out here. So like Piney Elder is amazing. So we go beer tasting all the time. So yeah, some good spots out here.
Yeah, I had the piney.
Yeah, we like piney.
Yeah, I did like a beer tasting where I think there's 16 beers. I was like, I am lit.
That is exactly what happened.
Lit. Beer tasting is a lot different than wine tasting.
Sure is.
Yes.
What did you try
I linked Crystal.
that?
I linked the Tripel, the Carmelite.
Oh, my fave.
Yeah, it got a 95 rating on Beer Advocate.
You know, I have to admit, I pick my beer by percentage. The higher percentage, I'm like, yes, that most likely is a beer that I'm gonna like. But I like triples. Like I like the Thelonious Monk. I like kind of those types of beer.
Thelonious Monk, yes.
So since you didn't have a beer, but rate your drink that you're drinking right now? We gotta always rate what we're drinking. So what are you out of 10? What is it?
So I rate this as because I got this at the farmer's market. I rate this as an 8 or 9 because I drove over a bridge to get it, so you know it has to be good.
Okay.
Grandpa, what you rating that first beer I got you? He said a 5.5.
Oh, this got
A
the
5.5.
There's a
So,
surprise.
You got to understand, Pops rarely gives any ratings over 6, so a 5.5 is solid.
That's solid. Yeah.
Okay.
If you get a 6.5, that's pretty special.
Yeah.
Girl, you ain't growing yet.
What you say, nephew? Y'all connection
It might
spotty
make it a
today.
6 for me.
It might get a 6.
It's hiding. It's hiding right now, so you already know what's about to happen. But how about this? You go next, IT. You know, keep the show flowing.
So, when found one called by Noon Whistle Brewery, Hot Prism Blue IPA, 7.3. Never had it. Figured try something different. Oh, it's pretty though. So let's see.
I give it a 6.
You give it a 6?
But where's it based out of? Like who?
It's up here in Illinois, Naperville.
Oh,
Naperville and Lombard. Smells good. Well, smells light for an IPA, but it's not a double. So
Oh, that's pretty good.
From smell, I'm thinking about 6.5. Let me taste it. I put a little too much head on here, nephew.
I'll give it a 6.5.
I'll give it a 6.75. I like it.
Yeah, I almost went to 7. But...
If it was real hot, then I'll be like, yes.
Yeah, and it ain't.
But it's not that hot outside today. So
What's the name
Was
of
it like 80 degrees outside there?
It's
I don't think it's that.
We got California jokes today. Is that?
It's
is
like
that
70 degrees.
That is like hot. That's when we go out in the little short shorts. I'm like, yes, it's summer.
So Pops, yeah, Noon Whistle.
Oh, Noon Whistle.
It's called Hot Prism Blue.
Moon Whistle.
Noon Whistle.
Noon Whistle.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Hot Prism Blue IPA.
Damn, that was Grandpa almost had a flashback. We said Moon Whistle. I'm like, no, it's not that racist. Man, I'm gonna try Grandpa's other one just so we can rate them all at the same time. I'll switch it. Oh, this Irish ale is pretty good. This is pretty good.
You like that?
Are you gonna share with your granddaddy?
Yeah, we're gonna switch off. I'm gonna give this a 7.5.
Pop say he don't want to be drinking after you. Oh, married self. They're gonna make Pops drink after you.
Wow.
Pops don't do it. Pops don't do it.
I don't know what those lips have been. So do you guys even know what your first beer you ever had was?
I can say this is. I can agree with Grandpa. This isn't that. This is a 5. This is not that. Yeah. It kind of tastes like cigarette, but backwash.
What?
Wow. Why are you drinking cigarettes?
That's what I was wondering.
Wait a minute, let's not act like we haven't all picked up a drink that made a mistake and had a butt in it and was like, what's that? We've all done it at some point.
Picked it up and drank it are two different things.
What happened?
If somebody dropped it in the can and you didn't see it.
So here's what happened. I was at the liquor store and I was buying a 6-pack of Bud Light Platinum. This is a few years ago for me and Grandpa. He had one perfectly fine. I opened the top, fresh, and to me it's a fresh top, never been touched. Open it, take a swig, cigarette butts in there. I hadn't touched the Bud Light Platinum.
Wait, from the store?
From the store.
What?
This was years ago. I hadn't touched Bud Light Platinum since then. That's why every time Grandpa says that, I'm like, I always be looking like, you got the good one or?
Dang, that makes me suspect of any can I ever buy ever again now.
Yeah.
So Danielle asked a good question. I answered mine. She said, can you remember the first beer you ever had? Mine was Bush beer because my grandmother used to drink Bush beer. So I would drink that with her.
I'm going to say Pabst Blue Ribbon because Pops used to drink Pabst Blue Ribbon.
No, man, I was
Pops, what was your first beer?
I was a stroll. What my first beer was? Pfeiffer.
Yes, sir.
That was the beer.
What?
Pfeiffer.
Spiteful?
Pfeiffer.
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 Oh, Pfeiffer.
Pfeiffer beer.
It was way back in ancient times.
Yeah, that's when they came out with the jumbo. The jumbo was 24 ounces. No, 32. That's what the brothers used to drink back in the day with the brown paper bag, you know.
Yeah.
Jumbo and put in that brown paper bag and like nobody knows what you drink.
Right.
Taste.
You know what? That's what we need to.
That's a cultural thing, you know, the brown paper bag.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hood thing.
Love it saying it. It's cultural. It's a hood thing.
Pfeiffer's is a Detroit beer.
Yeah, it was. I think they've been out of business 25 years.
Or more.
It started in 1871.
Great. Of course, it was only 32 ounces for 25 cents. That ain't such a bad deal, is it?
What?
Man, they've been out of business since
70s?
Oh, okay, wait a minute. Somebody bought them. 1972 they got purchased.
By a man named, the initials FT.
It got purchased.
Right.
Yeah, it got purchased.
By
Grandma.
who?
Grandma's like, who? Who took it from me?
It was a decent beer.
How dare they?
It was a decent beer.
Never had a jumbo again.
They talking about bringing it back.
Oh yeah, they should.
Ooh.
They should.
I'm pretty sure it's terrible.
I bet you.
You know,
Grandma was like,
That's why you have it in the black paper bag.
Right.
they might actually fill a brown paper bag with the beer and give it to you.
Hey, Pops. So that's what the brothers. You always say the brothers. That's what the brothers was drinking down in the Black Bottom.
oh yeah. No, they were drinking all that not black, just black bottom.
Not just there.
That was the hood, period.
Oh, okay.
Bottom,
Okay.
up bottom, side bottom.
I tried to get him into the Black Bottom discussion of Detroit, but
Hey, nephew.
Yes.
Nephew, what was your first beer?
Oh man, shoot. So I guess I can tell a story now because my mom was not here. So legend has it, when I was a little boy, when I was like a little kid, my mom said that one of my uncles snuck me a beer when I like a Budweiser when I was like 2 or something, like just to take a sip of it. So I guess it was Budweiser, and that explains a lot.
You know, it's interesting when people ask me my first beer. I used to drink beer with my grandma, but this is the thing. My grandma passed away when I was in the 5th grade. So that's how long I've been drinking beer.
So you can relate.
What you say, nephew?
what was yours, Danielle?
Yeah.
For me, my first beer, so my aunt, we would go to Port Arthur, Texas. Let me backtrack. I live in California. I'm a California girl, but in the summers we go to Port Arthur, Texas, which for me was like the middle of nowhere. And my aunt, yeah, I said it, it's the middle of nowhere. Shout out to PA. My aunt would drink Coors, and I was just like, why does she seem like she likes this so much? So I tried it. I was like, this don't taste right. And I remember the first beer that I actually liked when I was probably, I want to say, I still wasn't 21, so I was probably like 20, was Rolling Rock. Rolling Rock was what got me drinking beer.
Rolling Rock is disgusting.
I remember.
Oh, I agree with that now.
Are you serious?
Yeah, now, back then, it was high.
Back then, it was popping.
Let me tell you a Rolling Rock story. When I was in college, I lived with 2 of my best friends, all of us from East St. Louis. And one of my friends' dad came down, like the family came down to do something, and we had some Rolling Rock in the refrigerator from like a party or something we had. Her daddy drank that beer, and he looked at it. He said, "If you ever want to kill me, you give me this shit right here." Like, what is that?
But he loved like Budweiser or something like. So he wasn't like.
Daddy Matthew loves all that stuff, but that Rolling Rock, he hated it.
I remember
Rolling Rock was good back in the day in the 90s, like late or mid 90s. It was mid 90s. Rolling Rock, I went from Rolling Rock to Guinness. I went straight from one into the other, and then I kind of went back and towards the middle.
Yeah. I didn't drink it till later on, but I thought it was a fairly decent beer. Rolling Rock.
Pops, we already know your taste buds are dead. So, I'm not surprised.
That pop like that Bud Light Platinum.
You know, Grandpa has a very storied palate, as I like to say.
Story.
during our malt liquor phase of the show, when we actually had the brown paper bag and the 40 ounce, and me and Grandpa killed what was it? Didn't we kill like those 2 40s of Cobra on the camera?
Horrible. And Pops will smash it like, yeah, that's
Grandpa,
a good
Grandpa will go through a 40, man. He'll be gone.
I'm glad we came on the show after the malt liquor phase. I'm glad. I would have missed that.
I didn't the malt liquor.
Grandpa, you don't remember? That was like episode 30.
I might have drank something, but that wasn't my beer. You know?
I'm talking about during the show. It was like episode 30 something.
Oh, okay.
But we did like a month of 40s just to clear out the liquor store. And yeah, that was it. Actually,
it was the 40s month.
Sometimes when Grandpa doesn't have a new beer, because come on here to give him a beer or something, he'll just get on. Remember, he used to do Molson Ice a lot.
That's a good beer.
He liked that beer.
Good beer. You
know. He'll pop a tall boy of Molson on here and drink it like it's new.
About that. I drank that from about 2010 to 2015. I was a Molson Ice man.
Yeah.
And then he'd take a good long swig, and then he always look at the can.
That's how you look at Bud Light Platinum now.
Yeah. But is Bud Light Platinum actually better than Bud? I mean, does it make a difference?
It is.
If you don't have a cigarette butt in, it's great.
If you don't have a cigarette butt.
Good to know. Good to know.
It's actually pretty good though. I can't really front on it. It's not bad.
I've had it and it has I think it has like a lemony aftertaste to it. Like it's like a beer lemon.
You may convince me to actually try a Bud Light. I haven't had a Bud Light.
Don't compare it to your Trapel or nothing like that. Just let it be its own thing. I don't want you to have your expectations too high.
Well, that's the problem. So I love drinking beer, but especially in other countries. But a lot of beer in other countries are really light, especially in warm environments. And I'm like, you might as well drink, go to the bathroom. Like,
I don't like none of that. A Bud Light Platinum like 6%. Yeah. It's like I said, if you gotta drink any of the lower class beers, like I would get that one.
Okay. I usually will go for water before the lower class.
Right. So speaking of other countries,
yes,
we brought Danielle on for a reason today. So Danielle, tell us about you, who you are, what you do, and all that good stuff.
Well, I was born in a small town. I'm joking. I'm an AKA representing. I'm joking.
Really? Really? That's what we do. So his nephew's wife just crossed. She's a AKA.
Yay! I heard. All right. So my name is Danielle Washington. I am from the Bay Area. So if I say hello, don't be surprised. It comes out like, I don't know, like everything else I say. What else about me? I have two businesses. I own one business called Rogue Experiences, which is where I take busy and overworked women of color on trips around the world to really help them take care of themselves and remember to put on their oxygen mask first. I'm also a certified Reiki master. What's a Reiki master? Reiki is a Japanese form of stress reduction. It's basically energy healing. So if you think about like when Jesus put hands on people, that was essentially Reiki. So it helps with, kind of clearing, your energy flow in your life. The way I like to describe it is think you have this living room full of all these clothes that need to be folded. And Reiki is that thing that folds all the clothes and puts them away all neatly. And that's our energy. And it kind of helps you get rid of blocks in your body. So that's that. And then I have a podcast called Hello Well with Danielle, which is focusing on travel and wellness. And that's me.
Hello Well with Danielle.
Yes. Hey, Lexi. So.
I see Lexi's name. Is she on there?
She in the comments. She watching the show.
Oh. I saw her name pop up.
So Danielle, what's your Instagram?
I have two Instagrams. So I have Rogue Experiences, and I'll put it in here. And then I have Hello Well with Danielle.
I'm gonna post it on the screen, y'all, who are like Alexis, who's interested. I don't know what other person watches, but in case you're interested too.
Like, why am I spelling my own name wrong? Whoops. And I'm not.
That happened to me until I was 10. Like I ain't know how to spell Joshua until I was 10.
How did you spell it, baby?
Oh, I do. You don't want to know. I was scared.
Oh my God. So there
it's 6 letters, so it shouldn't be that hard.
So Pops loves Cuba.
I love it too.
So what you got to know about this show? Whenever the word Cuba is said, we drink.
Oh,
it's been there for the last few. I don't know how many hundreds of it. So
hundreds.
For real.
I should have got a bigger bottle.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. Like I should have got another one.
Yes.
It's funny. I know that he's never been though, right? Have any of you guys been?
I've been.
Okay.
Yeah.
You went without Crystal?
I'm intending to go first chance I get.
Well, right now things are a little bit crazy, and it sucks. I don't know if you guys heard about the protests going on there. But I remember the first time I went, and I'm grateful for. Let me phrase that. I'm grateful for Obama for opening things up. But I was going to go many years ago when it wasn't legal to go. Like people kind of would go through Mexico or go through Canada. I had an opportunity actually to go on a dance visa. So I dance on the side. I learned for that. I used to dance on the side. I don't really do it much anymore, but I used to dance rueda and salsa. But I decided to move to Italy instead, so I ended up going. But my first time going, it was everything.
You can salsa that well? They'll just give you a visa?
No, honey. Yes, I just shifted, backed it up, moved it forward. You get a visa.
Boy's about to go brush up.
I'm like, so immigrants just need to know how to dance if they want to get in this country. That's how it works.
No, I took classes from a guy who was from Cuba, and they would do like art and like visual arts or whatever visas. And so I would have been able to go to Cuba on a visa that was focused in on dancing solely. So it was just specifically for dancing. So right now, I think there used to be 8, but I think there's 7 reasons why you can go to Cuba. I think good old 45 changed it. He took away 1 or 2 things from it. But one of them is on like educational, which is arts. So that's why I was going to go.
Nice. When was the first time you went?
It was either 2016 or 17, and I've gone every year since until 2020. Last year was the first year I did not go. But then again, I didn't go anywhere last year.
Right.
It was crazy. I can say I was out of the country once in 2020 because I literally came back from Costa Rica on the 2nd, but I had hella trips planned and they all got canceled. But I always go to Cuba because Cuba has my heart. Cuba took me and just said, you are one of us. And it and like life has never been the same. Like it literally is one of my favorite places to go. And it's one of the safest places to go.
It's one of the safest.
People will be the first one because, like, the U.S. is like, oh, don't go, warnings. They're messing with the, people at the embassy, giving them some ear thing. I'm like, that's you others. I didn't get those problems. I was trying to be polite. But no, literally as a woman of color, what
ear things?
So if you look it up, I don't know exactly what happened, but the American embassy, a lot of the workers got this weird ear thing where they couldn't hear all of a sudden. They thought they did some kind of, I don't know, it's not cyber, but some kind of terrorist sound attack. I don't know, allegedly. But it was something to the point where they closed the embassy down, or they removed all the workers because they thought that there was some kind of thing that Cuba did to the Americans.
Have you heard about that?
In Russia, the same thing they were trying to put on Cuba about the Russians having a high frequency signal or doing something to the employees in the Russian embassy, and then they say the same thing. The Cubans has got some frequency that they're using, to disturb the Americans. But to me, it's a bunch of baloney, and they come up with all the time.
I blend in when I'm there, so
let's go in and invade Cuba.
Talk about that, because she just made a good comment. She said she blends in when she's there. What do you mean by that?
So, I love the fact that Cuba, though it is, a Latin country, there's people who look like us. It's an Afro-Latin. You look there, you kind of be like, oh, this is part of Oakland. Bad. Streets are I love Oakland. But you have people who are as dark as me, as light as Crystal, all different shades, which is, sorry, Crystal, I was just, facts are facts.
Nephew, we coming back, nephew. We gonna bring it back.
She said light as you. That means I'm a shade dark.
That's just because y'all cameras look funny.
Well, no, she pointed you out. I'm a shade darker. I gotta tell Ashley I done moved up.
But there's all different types of shades in Cuba. There is the African culture that has been engraved into the culture there, which is why I like learning about Santeria, which is, Afro-Cuban, religion. I love the dance. Like it feels like a great place to be Black. It's one of the places where I would say if you are of African descent, I would definitely recommend going to Cuba. They love people. I mean, they are friendly as can be. Now, you might get your ear talked off, especially if you speak some Spanish, but they're friendly. I can walk out the streets at any hour of the night and feel 100% safe. I can't say that about being in the Tenderloin of San Francisco. I can't say that about being in DC. I can't say that about being in many other places. But in Cuba, I have never had an issue. I don't know. And I know some people who've gone to Cuba and they've never had issues. But like when I first started going to Cuba, it was like right when things opened. It was like, it was when you were like running into friends. I was like, hey, girl, you here too? I was like, dang, everyone and their mama is here in Cuba. But it was like when they didn't have internet per se. So it was like, you were like, when you went to Cuba, you're like, okay, everyone, I'm off the grid. Because you literally were off the grid. And now, you know, I think in 2018, they actually added in where you can get mobile service like Wi-Fi on your actual phone, and you can actually utilize your phone. But before, you'd have these cards to try to get some internet, but you had to go to a hotspot. You can always tell it was a hotspot because I was like hella people on their phone, like with the card, scratching it off, making sure they don't scratch off the numbers. Yeah, I love Cuba. I love the taxis that you share. I love the food. I love the beaches. I love dancing. I just everything. It's my love.
So what would you recommend as the first thing a visitor does there? Oh, I'm sorry, Pops, you got a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to ask if for somebody that wants to go to Cuba as a tourist, what would a person of African descent, what would be the best city, Havana or some other parts of Cuba?
Well, I think everyone, you have to fly into Havana, but I think everyone should go to Havana. I think that Havana is just kind of, it's the center of it all. Like you can't go to Cuba without going to Havana, but I recommend going outside of Havana. Like I personally love being in Trinidad, Cuba, which is southernish, whatever. It's a UNESCO city, and it feels like you literally have like fallen back into a certain point in time. Where I feel like Havana has its parts where it feels like, dang, this was beautiful in its heydays. Trinidad feels like it's just been kind of set in time and it hasn't changed. And it's just beautiful. You're close to the beaches there. You have these amazing waterfalls that are like maybe an hour or hour and a half away. It's one of my favorite places to go. But then you have Bernales, which is where you have the tobacco farms. You have Veradero, which is like one of the most popular beaches, though I actually like the beach near Trinidad better. There's so many places. There's Cienfuegos. I mean, there's tons and tons and tons and tons. And there's so much more that I'd like to do. The problem about traveling in Cuba is you got to get from one place to another in a car that was made in the 50s. That not always the best thing. And that ish be hard.
You got that same racket suspension, huh?
So imagine you're going on a 3 or 4 hour road trip in an old ass car with people you don't know. Oh, and add in no AC.
Oh, fam. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember one time I was in a car and we were trying to get back. I think we were coming back from Trinidad to Havana. One girl spoke Italian and I think some Spanish. One guy spoke French and the other guy spoke only English. And then you had the driver. So we literally were translating between the people to make sure everyone knew. So so I spoke Italian so I could speak to her. And then I spoke a little French to speak to him. And then the other guy spoke English. So it was like crazy.
Wow.
So they just worked the mess out of you because you were the only one that could bridge the gap between everybody.
It was bridging gaps.
Wow. How long do you typically stay when you visit? What's the minimum amount of time you would recommend if somebody's going to visit? What's the minimum amount of time?
I mean, if you're going for like the basic, I'm just chilling, doing the quick in a Havana and a beach, I would say you can go for like 5 days or so. But like if you want to go like further out, you got to give yourself time to like travel and get there and know, like, I mean, because you take the bus. I've never taken the bus because the buses are usually more expensive. I don't know, they seem sketchy. I don't know, everything seems, well, not everything feels sketchy, but like, I just don't like the buses there. But yeah, I would say if you wanted to go other places, a week and a half, you still can get pretty far.
Okay.
Like even a week, like I remember the first time I went, I was gonna go for 5 days, but my trip got shortened because TSP was doing something. And so I think I was only there for 3 or 4 days, and I still saw a lot in 3 or 4 days. Like you can get through all of Havana and still see a beach.
What's your favorite? Go ahead.
I was just going to ask Pops, like, Pops, because you've been wanting to go to Cuba for a long time. What are the things that you want to do? What are some of the things you would want to see, experience?
One of the things I want to do, I just want to get over there and I'll say be with my people for real. I like to go over there, but I don't want to go to the place where they got the tourists and things, you know. You remember, Freddie, in Morocco, we went to that little place, you know, you and the IM was in the corner in the bar. It was a local place. And that's what I'm saying. I want to get away from the tourist thing and get with the people, you know, and see how. Probably example of what I'm trying to say is that even like in Africa, you feel like you home, you know. You go over there in Ghana, you think you're an gangster. I ain't kidding. Ain't nothing different except that you just don't know the people, but you feel you know them, you know.
Assume the heat might be different.
Yeah. So Danielle, could you how do we get like the visa to go in today's climate?
Well, before going to that, I wanted to kind of go back to Pop's comment. I feel like a lot of places in Cuba don't feel touristy because they don't have the Disneyland. They don't have you could kind of there's very few restaurants I feel touristy because oftentimes a lot of them are still places where the locals go. And so I feel like it doesn't have that full touristy on feeling unless you're going to Revolution Plaza, which again is a landmark, but it doesn't feel touristy. So that's one thing I did like about Cuba. Like I felt like you step in and it's like, boom, especially if you look like us, you're like a local and people treat you like a local unless they think you have money. And then it's a whole different ballgame. But so how do you go? I don't remember all the different things because like right now it's just been on autopilot. But typically you have I think I was saying 7 different reasons how you can go to Cuba. When Trump was in office, he took away one of those reasons. People are like, oh, you can't go to Cuba. And I'm like, no, if you really look at the different 7 reasons, there were 2 that were pretty much exactly the same. And I'm like, just basically you're supporting the local. So what you're not supposed to do now is you are not supposed to stay in a federal or national hotel. You're not supposed to do anything that is on that level. But okay, who wants to stay in a hotel anyway? The hotels are hella expensive and they look and feel like they were built in the 60s and 70s. Not where I want to stay. I typically stay in Airbnbs, in people's houses that people rent out, which are gorgeously remodeled and stuff like that. Oftentimes, part of the reason why you're saying you're going is you're supporting the Cuban people. Well, you're supporting the Cuban people by buying a tour with a local person, by going to the local food places, by staying in, an Airbnb. That's how you're supporting the Cuban people. And that's kind of how I've always gotten around going to Cuba. So yeah. And if you want to learn to dance, maybe you go on a dance education thing. But there's so that's the typical way people go to Cuba.
So with the Airbnbs, I'm asking, I was about to say I'm assuming, but let me ask, are they like the Airbnbs here where you rent the entire place, or are they like hostels, like when you hear people traveling other places where they're sharing rooms and sharing houses with people that
you can do both. I have rented, so I've done several trips there for Rogue Experiences. I'll rent out a villa I'm like renting out a villa that's like $200 something a night for that sleeps 12 people.
What?
With a chef.
What?
Yeah. Welcome to. It's so beautiful to be in Cuba. Things are dirt cheap, or they have been cheap. Things have gotten a little bit more expensive, but not that much more. But yeah, I've rented out a full villa, but I've also rented out a room in a house and called it a day.
So one thing that, because I'm sorry, go ahead, Pops.
No, I was just saying about the bed and breakfast. Places, like you did in Canada, breakfast, bed and.
I mean, they don't feel like a bed and breakfast because you're in someone's home. If you're staying with someone, the great thing about when you're staying with someone in someone's home, they cook you breakfast. Breakfast is bomb. Like, I don't know, everything tastes different out there. Like guava tastes different. Like avocados are like huge and they just taste really good and they're dirt cheap. Especially here. Everything just feels different. Like it just tastes better.
So I'm sorry, but I done got on Airbnb and I'm on Cuba. Man, what?
Exactly.
We need to get up out of here and stop playing.
You can find some great places, and like it depends on where you want to stay. Like I like staying in certain areas. Like you have Old Havana, which is great because you're like in the middle of everything. I like staying near the Malecón, which is like a cool spot where it's like there's like wall on the water where people hang out at night or just during the day and chill. And like you just see a lot of like kids or lovers or just friends hanging out. That's kind of like the hangout spot. You see people like just there chilling, having a great time.
So do you still? And I don't know if you've looked at it since you said you haven't been there in a while, but what was that? I think that was early this year or late last year when the conversation about them traveling to Cuba, Pops and Freddie going to Cuba was brought up. When we looked into it, they were requiring that when you first get there, you quarantine for what was, I believe, 5 days before you go anywhere else. Do you know if you are doing an Airbnb and stuff like that, are they still requiring you to quarantine at a particular place before you can do that, or can you just go on out and live?
I haven't looked because I knew I wasn't planning on traveling there. Unfortunately, I think in the last week or two, they reported like 10,000 new cases of COVID. So COVID's been real. Yeah.
Really?
10,000.
Wow.
I mean, there's been a lot going on. The government's been changing. There's civil unrest in the sense of they're asking for their rights. I mean, there's lack of food, lack of so many different things. Like, it's great. One thing I loved about Cuba is like, these people don't have a lot, but you would never know that by talking to them. They're full of energy and love and just life. But everything's being rationed. The internet's being rationed, food's being rationed, and vaccinations are being rationed. And so it's not the easiest life to live. And I would say right now it's probably one of the worst times to be in Cuba as a Cuban and probably people visiting, which sucks.
Why do you say it's the worst time even for travelers?
Because I don't know if they have the COVID situation down to like, they have one of the best medical places in the world, like those medical schools. But like right now, they are not being able to control the virus, but also with food rationings and all these different things, like it affects definitely locals, but it's also affecting the tourists as well.
Oh, see, I was under the impression, weren't we under the impression that Cuba had low COVID numbers?
That was a while ago. I don't know, but I haven't.
Everything is changing left and right. I ain't watched
nothing about what's been going on lately.
Like recently, like the Virgin Islands got put on the list, and a couple other places that weren't on the list. Like things keep changing dramatic. Like they'll go up and down right now.
It's hard for like island nations to either they don't have it or they have a lot of it because they're so transient. Like their local population might be fine, but then someone comes in and then like it's like a chemical weapon. Some person who didn't do what they're supposed to do comes in and gets slipped through the cracks, and then boom, and everyone can be doing everything straight. I mean that's what happens. That's on a smaller scale or a greater scale what happened to America. You know, they allowed people to come over who didn't follow protocol or whatever, and then now you see what happened.
Well, it's crazy because I just looked up the numbers, right? Because I know we had been talking about it earlier this year. So earlier this year when we were talking about it in January, like the spike is crazy. In January, they only had 193 new cases.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, wait a minute, nephew, am I able to share over here? I think I can.
Yeah, here you go. Hold on.
But y'all
because they were doing really good, and then they weren't.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Wow, yeah.
Look at this. Can y'all see that?
No, we can see you.
Y'all can see me? There we go.
We can see, yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So in January, it was all the way down here. And then all of a sudden, this crazy spike where it's 9,700 new cases.
COVID numbers.
I said that's the red part.
No, that's this part.
This part over here pops the blue.
Okay, blue part. Okay, I couldn't read nothing.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's really what's happening all over the place.
Yeah, but we thought,
not to that level of a spike.
Yeah, because Cuba was keeping people out in the whole. That's when we were searching. So they must have released their restrictions on quarantining when you get there and all of that stuff. Because that's why we were giving them kudos. Like, they're not playing. You come here, you quarantine before you can get in our streets at your own expense. So wow, that's great.
A lot of places were doing the quarantine at your own expense, and then they switched it up, especially as the vaccination came into play. But everything's changing. Like, I'm planning a trip to Morocco, and it just keeps going up and down of what's needed, what's not needed.
My whole thing is like I'm starting to like I don't fly Spirit or anything, but you've seen Spirit is having delays like crazy because like what was it? A storm happened recently and pushed everything back. Like if these lockdowns or these restrictions happen again, you're gonna see a lot of that happen. And I'm not trying to get stuck in someplace foreign to me. You know, especially if the first language is someone I can speak. You know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm more than willing to wait it out. Like I ain't gotta go nowhere for a while. We'll be traveling.
I don't know. I'm looking at these prices on what $150 a night getting, buddy, and let me tell you. I think we're about to go see about this island nation.
Well, I remember going to like getting lobster for like $4. I'm just like, yo, I got a full lobster meal and sangria and dessert. It was like $4. I'm like, yes.
So do they have Wagyu steak though? A5 steak. That's what I need to know.
I have never looked for that there, so I don't know. I mean, like, I've gotten ropa vieja, but I've never like attempted to buy just a steak there. Ropa vieja is one of my favorite meals.
What is what you just said?
Ropa vieja is like a beef stew, like shredded beef, like in like a stewy sauce. And you usually have it with plantains on the side. It's hella good. Or moros cristianos. Oh, moros cristianos is hella good. The moros cristianos is basically black beans and rice, but cooked together. But they do more with it. Like they put bay leaves. Like, so I've done with a lot of my groups. We'll do a cooking excursion. So we'll go to some little grandma's house somewhere in Cuba, and we'll have her teach us how to cook all these different meals. And she taught us how to cook that one.
Nice. Grandpa said that's a meal. You know, Grandpa, rice and beans.
Yeah, rice, black eyed peas and rice. Everything go with rice.
Yep.
I brought up on beans.
But them cooked together is a whole different ballgame versus it being separate. And like they put the different seasoning in there. And then, oh my God, we had this guava. Like it was a cooked guava with like this cheese. I was like, yo. This is bomb. Oh my God, I love the food.
Yes.
I love the drinks. Well, I used to like the drinks. The drinks have got me in trouble. Like hardcore. I don't know if you guys were in TSP back then, but that's when I don't know if you remember Boot Life.
Yes.
Yeah, Cuba.
You had the boot on when I met you.
Yeah.
No, you had just gotten out the boot. I was in the boot.
Oh, yes. So, yeah. So my last day in Cuba, my first trip to Cuba, I was coming back early for this conference. And so I cut the trip short because I really wanted to go to this conference. And I was like, it's my last day. Oh my God, I have to have the ultimately best mojito ever. And so in total Virgo style, I went for hours searching for the best mojito. Not that I tried them. I'm going from one side of Havana, which is like 20 minutes or so, walking back to the other side. I'm like, oh, this is too touristy. Oh, this doesn't look right. That guy looks sketchy. There's too many people. I did that for several hours, like 3 or 4 hours, until one day at one point I was walking and I felt like my ankle, I was like, if I make another move, something's about to rip. I was like, oh, so I jacked up my ankle looking for the best mojito. Whoops.
So I looked up this Ropa Viejo, and I'm looking at pictures because I love pictures of food. Yeah. And I see a lot of them have olives in it. Is that normal?
I mean, some people do put olives in it, but I don't. The ones I typically make.
I love olives. I'm just surprised I did. Yeah. But yeah,
I did not care for olives.
You don't? I love olives too.
I like olives, but I don't necessarily need them all on my food. Most places don't put. I mean, I see most places I've had. There's not olives in it.
Okay. I just want to know which ones I need to get when I go.
Yeah, Ropa Vieja is probably and like the other thing, you're not going to see a Cuban sandwich. Oh, that's some American ass BS. Don't be going to Cuba asking for a Cuban sandwich. You'll see sandwiches, but don't ask for a Cuban sandwich and expect the ham and the cheese and all stuff like that. There, that's Americanized meal.
So what's the sandwich down there then?
Like basic, like some meat and cheese. Like it's real basic. There is no Cuban sandwich. They don't
romanticize that in Miami. They made it seem like, you wake up, you have a Cuban sandwich, for lunch, then you have 2 Cuban sandwiches for dinner.
Yeah, in Miami.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So wait, what's
I'm like going to Mexico asking, oh, I want a burrito and all this. I'm like, nobody's burritos and all these other things.
So what's like the real national dish down there? Where when you go down there, you got to eat it. You got to try at least once.
So my thing is Ropa Vieja is one of them.
Where's that $4 lobster meal at?
What was that?
Where's that $4 lobster meal at that you were talking about?
So that was directly across the street. And it's actually a fancy restaurant. I remember walking in and I met with a friend of mine, and like it's so fancy that he had to put on a jacket. I was like, oh, because he had his arms are out. I was like, my bad. I'm like, sorry. Because I've been here before, but it's right across the street from the Capitol in Havana. I always forget the name of the restaurant. I'll have to look it up and give it to you guys. But yeah, that spot. And then there's a bunch of other little small, kind of up and coming chefs at these different restaurants. I've had some amazing meals. I mean, some people really don't like the food in Cuba. Some people are like, oh, it's bland. It don't taste right. And I'm like, I've never had that problem. But I also don't over salt my food either. I mean, I'm Black, but I don't over salt my food.
They're going to touristy spots where they got to adjust the season. That's what they're saying, bland.
So there are some tourist restaurants there. I remember, I don't know who the heck I was with, but I was like this. Oh, Eca Brava. I remember what happened. We were trying to go to the restaurant where I told you I had the $4 lobster, but there was a hella line to try to get in because everyone knows that this spot is bomb and it's hella cheap. And there's come with us. We could have this other spot that's just as good. That should have been my first cue. Don't follow people who tell you stuff like that. Oh, just follow me. It's just as good. That's a sign of trap. I knew it was a trap. But I went along with the other people who with me who didn't think it was a trap. I'm like, this is a trap, y'all. Y'all are travelers. Why aren't you realizing this is a trap? It felt like we went to, what was it, Applebee's of Cuba. And I was like, Applebee's of Cuba? I don't know where we are. It was so janky and so bad. And then people who I was with got sick there. Oh, that's the other thing. Be careful about the water. Drink bottled water because our systems are not used to the same type of water, all those things like that. So that's one of the things I also,
like Mexico.
Yeah, pretty much.
India and other stuff. So I want to go for the coffee.
I've had Cuban coffee. Oh, Echo, where was I? Sometimes I get my travel locations confused. I'm visualizing things, but yes, when we were in Trinidad, we went to a spot where we were kind of about to go into a hiking trail, but they had like this homegrown coffee where they got the beans there and they were doing everything like outdoors. The coffee was bomb.
I love when, like in Miami, when they come with a cup about this big with like 10 shot glasses and everybody pours some, and that's all you need.
I still think Italian coffee is better, but that's my bias. So, Pops, why do you love Cuba so much?
Well, I was I can go back to when Castro came over here and went to the St. Teresa Hotel and got amongst the black folks and ate the chicken and stuff. And then you can see the lie being told throughout these years. Now you have about 60 years not even telling the same lie. I just would like to know, is the revolution still strong?
No. There's a museum which is hella cool to go to. It's a Revolution Museum. And it literally paints America as like the devil. And I've never seen a museum that has done it to that degree. And I'm just like, okay, this is interesting, kind of seeing the flip side of the same story from their perspective. Another good, I don't know if you guys have Peacock. That's the only place that they have it on. But there's this great miniseries on Celia Cruz, who I love her music. But it's 90 episodes, well worth the 90 episodes. And it kind of goes through her life, but you're also seeing the history of Cuba pre-revolution, after, and it just gives you a good insight into what life's like living in Cuba and for people of color or people of darker skin tone.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Did his internet go out?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm like Bueller.
Right.
It's like they pose.
Right, like don't be over here sending these Airbnbs.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go back. Like seriously. And it sucks. I always would tell people, I'm like, go now because it's gonna change. In the time that I've been going each year, it gets more modern. And like, I remember, like, I wish I was there in the 50s and 60s when it was just really, this beautiful location. It still is beautiful, but a lot of the buildings are like literally as if someone bombed it and it's just there on the street. Not really? All of them, but there's just like, you're walking by and you're like, oh, crumbled building. Interesting. It's been crumbled probably for years and not just last week. And they're not planning on rebuilding it anytime soon. It's changing. And I think if and when it does open up to the US and everywhere else and the embargo goes away, then you're going to see, big companies coming in. I feel it's going to lose some of that charm that it currently has.
All of it.
I know.
When the people that's, you're going to get me started. Go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead, go.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, when you're looking for places to stay there in Cuba, what are some of the things you look for? Like, what's your criteria? Are you looking for certain areas? Are you looking for certain amenities? Like, are there adjustments that you have to be ready for? Because every time you go to a different country, there's always something different, right? And it's just like, oh, I didn't know they typically do this, or I didn't know they typically do that. So what are some things that you look for as you're booking?
So for me, what do I look for? I do look for certain things. I look for what it looks like just kind of, I don't like something that looks too run down. So I'm a little bit on that bougie side.
Look at Pops ain't doing less than 5 stars. Pops is a bougie traveler. Pops, when they were in Morocco, he told Freddie, he was like, no, they had to find a new hotel. He was like, I'm not having it. I need somewhere that is up to my standard.
He didn't appreciate the authentic.
So I do like authentic. So I like, especially in Cuba, I like something that has a little bit of this like authentic flair, and it feels like I've gone back in time. So I like something that has like the vintage furniture that just feels a certain way. Maybe it has. I've never found a place that has a pool, though there are places, because they're usually hella far out and they're in areas I don't want to stay in. So I usually stay in Vedado, which is, I guess it's considered their business area, because there's also clubs that I like to go to and certain restaurants I like to go to. And it's still close enough to Old Havana. But I also like staying in Old Havana. Only thing with Old Havana is it's just like a little bit more crowded and you're not getting as much space like you're living in apartments versus living in a villa. I look for reviews on like what the stay was like, the communication, especially if I'm doing Airbnb.
Yeah.
I may ask about water because, girl, honey, bunny, hot water can go away. It's happened several times in Cuba. I have learned to adjust to cold showers and I'm okay with it. But, you know, if that's something that's a problem for someone, you're going to want to know those questions and ask about, you know, what's your hot water situation? What's your electricity situation? Do they have a phone? Do they have a phone that they let you borrow? Some places will let you like give you a local phone that you can use during your stay, which makes it easier for you. So I like that as well.
What do you use the phone for locally?
What was that?
What do you use the phone for locally?
You're calling something, you know, need Wi-Fi or little random things, like it just makes your life a little bit easier. Like for me, I have local contacts there, so I would calling like certain people, or if I'm trying to get some girl, bye.
Contact. So, Pops, would you do an authentic location in Cuba, or do you still need 5-star accommodations?
In Cuba, it was and while we had that 5-star comment, I like to get with the people in Cuba. I just want to find out, because the way I feel, you know, that Cuba's only 90 miles from Florida, and they suffered what we were suffering at the same time. We take, like, for instance, there no black folks migrate to Florida when they were hanging black folks in Florida, you know. They stayed there because now all of a sudden they were free. You know, Castro did his thing, you know, he tried to make some equality. But in Florida, you still couldn't go into a restaurant or use the toilet or do anything. So why? You just going downward, coming here and going into Florida, you know. And all those people that came from Cuba to Florida, they all had money, you know. They had something to lose. And that's why they fight now. They want to get back, think they're going to get back there. But no, that's a lie. That's why I'm just hoping that the strength of the revolution, I'm not even talking about whether it's a communist or whatever it is, but it's got to be some kind of social justice, and that's what seemed to be getting there. In the United States, had they put on them when they came, there would be a paradise in Cuba now if the United States would get their foot off their neck, where they could bring trade with the rest of the world instead of saying you trade with Cuba, you can't trade with me. All that's a bunch of crap. And then right now on the TV, it's all you hear is about the Cuban people tired of this massive slavery or whatever you want to call it, when we got the problem over here, not in Cuba.
And at least they're aware of it. That's the problem, is we aren't aware of it.
Freedom here.
What'd you say, Pops? What'd you say, Pops?
Huh?
What was the last thing you said?
No, I was saying about, they keep hollering about the Cubans want to be freedom. Well, let's get some freedom here. Let's get off all this stuff about you can't vote and you can't do this and you can't do that.
Reparations.
And they keep talking about they're going to have a revolution. They want American troops. The senator from Florida, Marco Rubio, talking about going in there with troops to a sovereign country and going to overthrow a government. You know, that's what they do, overthrow government, you know, especially a socialist system. That's my thing about Cuba, you know, because we have shedded blood in Cuba in the 1898 when they took Cuba from Spain. It was black troops. Nobody ever talked about San Juan Hill. I was with the 24th Infantry Regiment, and they was the one in the 9th and 10th Cavalry, all black, 24th and 25th. They went to Cuba. Nobody talks about freeing Cuba, and they still didn't get no respect. Let's tell the whole story. Let's go back in time and tell the whole story, and then see what people say. And somebody asked me, say, what you want to go to Cuba for? I said, why not? You know, you want to go because what they talking about over here about Cuba, Cuba's this and Cuba's that. Cuba ain't nothing what they saying it is. That's why I was asking you how strong the revolution is. You know.
Yeah, I think things are changing.
Daughters go over there to the medical school for free. You know, what do you get free over here? A hard time.
Racism.
Knee on your neck.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Miss Washington. Y'all can stay on. I gotta go back to work. But what we like to do is before we normally wrap up. And thank you for coming. You'll definitely be our correspondent on travels to Cuba and dancing around the world, getting visas for free.
And dancing around the world.
I have danced around the world. That is very true. I have been clubbing around the world for years.
So, what's your final thought of the day before we wrap up episode 107?
Oh, mine?
Yeah.
The revolution is televised. You just have to be aware.
I like that.
That's a good one. What about you, Auntie?
My final thought.
The revolution was televised, right? But the thing was, the revolution will not be televised.
It is televised today.
It is televised. Amen.
My final thought is that Pops has a new best friend. I don't think he's gonna want to talk to us no more.
Yeah.
I like, we could trade Pops. You guys can have mine. I'll give you. Y'all can have mine. He's special.
Yeah.
So, if look, I'll say this, maybe a final thought, but if they would go back in pre-Cuba, not pre-Cuba, pre-Castro, and see what happened to us over there in Cuba, and then over here in the United States, and over here everywhere around the world. For some reason, people don't like black-skinned people. That's a fact, you know. So let's have the story out. You know, let's have what happened before Castro came in, who brought in that communist regime. You know, what did you have for us? It was Batista was killing folks and stealing money, and everything was great. United States stood back and let Batista leave with millions of dollars going back to Spain. And how much blood was on his hands? Uncountable. Well, I mean, black blood that Batista did to the black people. So let's tell the whole story and then let the people decide on this Cuba that they call this communist regime. You know.
What about your final thought, Paul?
Viva la revolution.
I just want to know, can I come when you, Danielle, and Pops go to Cuba? Because the three of y'all.
Oh, that would be lit. Let me just let you know right now.
You can join us. Now, I already got the Airbnb booked. I'm ready. Let's go.
So many places to see. I tell people when they're going to Cuba, just be open. Be open about and take away your American lens, because people going there and thinking, oh my God, this is not up to my Americanized standards. Be open. And just the experiences you'll have when you're open there, mind blowing.
I'm gonna give my final thought. I definitely appreciate you coming on. We've been trying to get somebody who's been to Cuba on here for a minute. Talk to Grandpa because he's been wanting it. Thank you so much. Also, I did see the link that Uncle Cooper sent me about the Airbnb in Cuba, and you can get a fortress for like $2 right now. So if y'all, hey man, if you make it there, you can come back, go to Cuba, because I'll tell you right now, if I can get to a fortress for cheap,
man.
Hello.
It's affordable. But thank you guys. We'll see you guys next week. You're always welcome to come back, Ms. Washington. As our correspondent, or just to come on and drink with us again. Maybe next time.
I will have a drink next time, I swear. I will not be on meds.
We put your social media. If everybody go give her a follow. We put both of them up earlier. So we got your road experiences and the Hella Well with Danielle. So we'll probably get that follow. Big up her and her businesses, plural. Cash mile. Make sure you get travel around the world, people, because the world's gonna open up soon again. It's gonna be fine. I mean, either it is or we're all gonna be dead. So either way, you got
something gonna be free. One way or the other.
Freedom either way.
One way or the other. So I'll see you guys. Love you guys.
All right, love you too, baby.
Oh, we gotta wait this
way. Oh yeah, okay, all right.
Pops, this way, over here. There you go. There you go.